Hello everyone, welcome to Inside the Nest, the sports show created by Canisius College students for your enjoyment. I'm your host tonight, my name is Joe Soisson, and here at the desk with me to talk sports is John Hollinger. Let's get right into it. Last weekend was President's Day weekend. It was also All-Star weekend for the NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo, aka Greek Freak, was the leader in points for the Eastern Conference, while Kyrie Irving led in rebounds and assists. On the Western Conference side, Anthony Davis led in points and rebounds. Assists was led by James Harden. So what stood out to you this All-Star weekend, John?
In the All-Star game, when Steph Curry decided to not even defend at all and laid down on the court and just laid there. And people were laughing, the commentators were laughing about it, because it was just so silly. The end result was 192 to 182. This is obviously, just more of a fun game for the players.
Yeah,
so.
I remember watching that play. I think it was. I think Curry saw about 4 players from the other team come storming up the court, and he just ducked down, put his hands on his head, and was like, "I'm not dealing with this." One thing that stood out to me was obviously Anthony Davis putting up 52 points. I remember in a post-game interview he said that he saw that he had racked up a bunch of points. And he mentioned to the guys on his bench, he's like, "Guys, I want to reach 50. I want to reach this because it's his hometown." I think that was cool for him to win MVP in his hometown. The other player the other play that I thought was cool was it was a small play. It was an inbound to LeBron James at half court, or basically half court, and then he drained a 3 and walked away.
Oh yeah. That was impressive. One thing that stood out to me was when Westbrook and Durant, the alley-oop, that was one thing, but the players' reactions on the sideline, they're all clapping. The commentator was singing Kumbaya. So, I mean, like, they knew that there was, that was going to be talked about. And
yeah, in a game with little defense, there was a lot to, a lot of offense and a lot to show and a lot of talent out there, obviously. Greek Freak obviously was I don't know how many dunks there were that game, but I swear in the highlight reels he had the majority of them.
Yeah.
There was one where he dunked over Steph Curry. I think that one, that one especially stood out to me. Because Steph Curry looked at him afterwards like, what was that for?
Yeah, and I think that's why Steph Curry laid on the ground later in the game, so to get out of the way.
All right, moving on. After All-Star Weekend, it's back to the regular season. Let's go over the standings. In the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers are on top with a record of 39-16. Boston, Washington, and Toronto, in that order, are the other 3 teams that would have home court advantage in the playoffs as of today. Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, the Golden State Warriors are 47-9. San Antonio, Houston, and the LA Clippers follow behind. Utah, Memphis, Atlanta, and Oklahoma City are all teams that are looking to make a splash in the top 4 of their division. What team do you have as your team to watch for the rest of the season, John?
I would say Oklahoma City. I mean, yeah, they're not in first place, and yes, they do have Golden State to take care of, but I think Russell Westbrook is going to take the rest of the season. I mean, he's already averaging literally a triple-double, over 30 points per game, and I think that he's going to continue to do that, and I think the team's going to start to gel a little bit more and make a run for it.
Yeah, I also agree. The other player on Oklahoma City that I enjoy watching is Victor Oladipo. Yeah. He's always a threat when he's on the court. The other team I'm interested in is Atlanta. They're hanging around about 500 record-wise, but I think they have the talent on their squad to make a splash, as I said before.
I think the Wizards are moving up. I mean, they started off 2-8 in the beginning of the season, and now they're actually moving along, and they're actually moving up in the standings. And I know John Wall is a big key to that. He's their key player. He's been their franchise player ever since he was drafted. So, I mean, and yeah, so the Wizards have been, I feel like they're sneakily moving up, and so they're a team to watch as well in the East.
Do you think the top teams like Cleveland and Golden State will drop off at any point? Will maybe like see like 5-game lose streak or something?
That's tough.
It is.
I don't see that happening, but I could see a couple games, like a 3 at most for the Cavs, because I know that they may try to rest some of their players. You saw, LeBron talking how they're about to rest LeBron, Kyrie, and Love at OKC, but then they decided to switch it later. So like they're obviously looking to rest players because they know the regular season isn't as big compared to the playoffs.
Right.
So.
Yeah. All right. So with that, let's move on. Moving on to hockey in the NHL. The race for the playoffs is on as teams have about 20 games left in the regular season to score as many points as they can. Here's how the playoffs would look right now. Minnesota leads the Central Division with 84 points and has a decent lead over the second and third place Chicago and St. Louis. In the Pacific, Edmonton and Anaheim are tied in second while the Sharks sit in first place. Montreal leads the Atlantic with 72 points and is closely followed by Ottawa and Toronto. Washington leads the Metropolitan with 85 points and is closely followed by Pittsburgh and Columbus. As of now, the wildcard teams in the Western Conference are Nashville and Calgary. In the East, the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers hold the wildcard spots. Buffalo has 62 points. That's 4 points away from a tie with Florida for the final spot. Can Buffalo make the playoffs this year? And what other team is the team to look out for this season in the NHL?
It's going to be tough for the Sabres. I mean, they're on a bye week this week, and they're seeing other teams win ahead of them. So they're going to have to make some noise themselves. They can only do what they can control. And I think, the last few games they've been pushing it and getting some points and good results. So, they're still a team to look out for that last wild card spot. What do you think?
I think, this weekend was tough. They had what I thought was a surprising win against St. Louis. I didn't expect them to win the game against the Blues, but they pulled it out, and I was impressed with that. And then going to Chicago, a 5-1 loss is rough. But I think their biggest issue isn't whether or not they can catch Florida, it's whether or not they can win the tiebreaker against Florida. The problem is they'd lose the tiebreaker now if they were to catch them. They don't have as many regular season wins, and if you have the same amount of points and regulation and overtime wins is also tied, they go to goal differential. And goal differential, Buffalo's behind Florida by about 10 goals, I believe. So I think the problem is not just winning, but they have to win big now in order to catch up. It's not impossible, but the probability is
this is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a while. So yeah, it'll be tough to make it, but they're still in the mix, is what I think. Another team to look out for, I think, is the Washington Capitals. Every year they get first, and they get first amongst the whole league, the most amount of points in the entire league for the regular season. But then when it comes playoff time, they can't do it. So I think we're gonna have to wait and to see in the playoffs how they'll do. But they're playing some fantastic hockey right now as well.
Yeah, they're certainly a team to look out for. The other team I'm interested in watching that I haven't really caught up with is the Edmonton Oilers. They haven't been good in years, and now they're tied for second in their division. Cam Talbot is playing great. Nugent Hopkins is kind of leading his team along with Connor McDavid. I think they're going to make a big splash in the Western Conference, and especially since the West has kind of been up for grabs. There was a stretch of games where, or a stretch of seasons where it was the Kings or the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
But now, and not that those teams are out of it, Blackhawks are still in there. LA is fighting for a wild card spot. But I think now that Edmonton, it's been years, Edmonton's been trying to rebuild their roster over and over again, and now I think they're here. So I think now is the time to watch and see what they can do I think they'll hold on to their playoff spot, and that's going to be that's certainly whoever they end up playing. That's certainly going to be a game I'm going to watch in the postseason. All right, so all right, we're going to take a break, quick commercial break. We've got more basketball and hockey coming up for Canisius Sports. That's all next when Inside the Nest returns.
Beginning in my sophomore year at Canisius, I was part of a research team developing treatments for children with high-functioning autism. This kind of research involvement usually only happens at the graduate or postdoc level, and I did it as an undergrad at Canisius.
Want to achieve more than you ever thought possible? At Canisius College, you can. A Canisius education is packed with extraordinary opportunities like top-level scientific research, global service experiences, and real-world connections. Want to intern at a Fortune 500 company? Want to get into the best medical and law schools? Want to be a champion for social justice? You can. Here.
Everyone loves the picture I posted of you.
AT&T reminds you, it can wait.
Welcome back, everyone, to Inside the Nest, where the Golden Griffins have landed. This part of the show is where we cover Canisius sports. Let's start with men's basketball, since there's been a recent development in the story of head coach Reggie Witherspoon's first season as a Golden Griffin. For those of you who aren't on campus, after the loss at Niagara, the coach said some words in an interview that C-Block, otherwise known as the fan section, took offense to. C-Block responded by not showing up to the last few home games that the team has had. Then yesterday at 1:20 p.m., Coach Witherspoon sent an email to the student body apologizing for what he said. Is this the right move by the coach, and where do you see the situation going from here?
I've actually never seen something like this kind of happen before, where a head coach apologizes for something that was a little more minor, in my opinion, on his statements. And it is kind of weird how Canisius isn't as good as at home as they are on the road. I mean, usually you see teams, they got their home crowd behind them, so they're used to practicing at their home court, so they have a better record at home. So it was a little weird seeing that email, but it's also a little weird how Canisius isn't getting the results at home as well.
Yeah, I think part of it is, in the email he mentioned that he wanted to have, or there is a certain kind of pressure when it comes to playing at home. There's an atmosphere to every stadium has an atmosphere, and he wanted it to be, festive in the Kessler Athletic Center. But I think that this is kind of a unique situation. It's not often that you see a coach, or I should say a college coach, email the student body really and apologize for what he said. I think it was a smart move to apologize, because now you'll get more fans back. But I think that the whole situation itself probably was a little bit out of hand at first, but I think now things are starting to smooth out.
Yeah, I think he probably also got wrapped up in the emotions from the game. I mean, losing to your rival, a Niagara team that wasn't as good. So, I mean, he was probably a little frustrated after the game, so he said what was coming off the top of his head. But, I've heard good things about Reggie Witherspoon and how he is with, people and stuff like that, and he's just a great person. So, seeing that email, he probably felt bad about what had happened. So I know there was definitely a lot of conversation about it and whether he should apologize or not. So I feel like he made the right decision if it was really something on his chest that he wanted to get off. So
right. And on another note to that, one of the home games that C-Block was short on attendance for was a home game against Iona on Valentine's Day. And that game was actually interesting. They pulled 2 starters and put in 2 bench players. They pulled Malik Johnson, and then they also ended up putting in Atkinson and Dixon Green. And the 2 of them, they went off. They had great games. I think part of the reason he did it was because not only because he wanted to see some depth to his bench, or to see how deep his bench could go, but I think it was also a message to the starters, like, this is the big leagues for you guys. This is where you have to perform. If you want the crowd on your side, you got to win games.
Yeah, and another thing to take from that Iona game is that they beat this Iona team at home, and they lost to them on the road by 23 points. Another thing, they just came off a loss to Marist, but they beat them by more than, I think it was over 30 points early in the season. So it just goes to show that anyone in the MAC can really beat anyone at any time. And this MAC tournament, or the MAC playoffs, is going to be a very interesting one to see. And it'll come down to that, to see who wins the MAC and goes to the big dance.
Right. Canisius currently sits in 5th place. There is Iona and St. Peter's, I believe, are tied for 2nd and 3rd, or 3rd and 4th, I should say. They're both a game ahead of Canisius, and Fairfield is 1 game behind Canisius in 6th place. So the standings are all very close. So it's an intense kind of atmosphere at the Kessler Athletic Center right now.
And especially with 2 more home games at the Kessler Athletic Center. They got Fairfield, and then they also got St. Peter's on Sunday.
St. Peter's.
So 2 more home games, and then off to Albany, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, it'll certainly be something to look out for. I think they need these 2 wins at home,
Yeah,
probably.
Definitely.
Because not only I think it's always best, usually to have the first 5 on the court. He usually likes to keep those guys in for most of the game. I would like to see the bench get used a little bit more. But so not only do you have the depth to the bench, but with wins at the end of the season, you kind of get that rolling momentum. So if you can get depth on the bench and rolling momentum all at home court, which has been kind of a toss-up recently, I think that's, if all of that goes that way, you could see Canisius making one heck of a run.
And plus, I mean, they're fighting for the last bye in the MAC tournament. I mean, the top 5 get a first-round bye in the tournament, so they can get more rest and put themselves in a better position to win the tournament too. So that's another thing that they're playing for. I mean, they're currently in 5th, so these last 2 games actually are big for them. So.
Right, and they're against teams that are also fighting for the top 5 spots. As I mentioned, Fairfield only 1 game behind. Now, let's move on. Let's go back to hockey, where the Griffins are 18, 10, and 7 overall and sit in 1st place in the Atlantic Hockey Conference. Not far behind are Army and Air Force, who sit only a game or so behind. The Griffs certainly have a lot of talent on their squad. If you had to give an MVP award to any player on the team this season, who would it be?
I'm going to go with the goaltender, Charles Williams. I mean, he's been nominated for the Hobie Baker Award, which is basically the Heisman of hockey. So he's having a terrific season, making phenomenal saves, seeing upwards of 40 shots per game and literally turning away majority of them. So, and I think he also has one of the country's top highest save percentage. So, and it's his first year here, which is pretty good. I know he's a 5th-year senior, but to be able to gel with the team and do all this and get all these accolades your very first year as well is something to look out for. So.
Yeah, and he's got, I believe his goals against average was under 2. I think that's fantastic.
That is good.
The player I think I would give an MVP to, along with Charles Williams, I like Dylan McLaughlin. He leads the team in goals. He has one of the top plus-minus averages with a +8, and he leads the team in points as well. So he's one of the guys I think that the team kind of looks for when the team is down in a game. I think the team on the bench looks to this guy to make a play.
And another thing, talking about the team in general, they're on the longest undefeated streak in all of college hockey at the moment. So they are like really hot right now with one more game to go as well. So, I mean, they are really cruising right now. And I think it's at 14 games right now, 14 games unbeaten, the most in the country. So hopefully they can carry this through the playoffs and tournaments as well. So.
Yeah, obviously getting first place is huge. It also kind of puts a target on your back being in first place. But I think this team, with guys like McLaughlin, you got Chandler, basically, the whole bench. It seems like the whole team gets involved. Yeah. And if you go to the game, even the atmosphere there, the fan section, they really get into it. Yeah. I was at the Niagara game. Yeah. That was something else to watch.
Yeah, I was at the Army game, and there were so many fights. It got pretty physical. Players were going to the penalty box, and what I like about there is they got the little kids banging on the penalty box, annoying the players. It's a great atmosphere there. Nothing like playing in downtown Buffalo there, so it's a great atmosphere, and yeah, they've been playing some good hockey lately. So.
If there was a weak spot on this team, where do you think that's at?
There's no weak spots.
There's no weak spots. I mean, I think that one of the weaker spots is like special teams. I think that if they can cut down a little bit on the penalties, because obviously Charles is facing about 40 shots a game. He's good, but he can't stop everything. You can't continue to let up 40 shots a game. So if you cut down on the penalties, you cut down on time on defense or their time on offense. So I think that's one thing that they could work on. I think that as a plus side, I think their offense has done fantastic, averaging about 30 shots a game and scoring at least 2 goals a game, or at least recently. I think that if they continue to play at the level they're at, they're gonna go probably top 4 in this, at least to the Final Four.
That'd be awesome.
In this tournament.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And yeah, their offense is playing really well. I know they just came off a 6-5 win against Sacred Heart. So, on those days that Charles Williams can't turn away every shot, their offense is putting away goals and winning the game as well. So that's good to see. So
yeah, their offense is there to back them up. All right, Thursday, February 23rd is their last game of the regular season. They'll be hosting Mercyhurst at the Harbor Center. Men's basketball ends their season with 2 home games against Fairfield and St. Peter's on Friday and Sunday. Women's basketball had their last home game already. We're going to take another break right before our final outs, and those are up next.
The Golden Griffin Fund is a student-run investment program. We would do all the work that an equity analyst would do in the real world, but we're getting this experience fresh out of college. Coming to Canisius will prepare you for the real world.
All right, so dude, check this out. I got a great idea for the Camaro commercial. We start in that desert,
Yeah.
And it's like, what car is that? And then it's like, bam!
Whoa!
Super fast.
And mirrors, a whole bunch of mirrors.
I guess. But maybe it's a woman that's driving.
Hot.
Totally hot. She's blonde.
Redhead.
Or a redhead. We should be in the city.
Driving fast.
Screeching through the streets.
Dodging hay bales.
No, she's in a city. I don't know why you'd have hay. But what about a chase?
Ooh, yeah, with bad guys. And a helicopter.
Right, yeah, all that stuff. It's right behind her. They're catching up. This is where the energy is, man.
Yeah, they chase her onto a roof and she flies off.
Dude, she just flies off a building?
Picture it.
Yeah, I'm picturing disaster. Like, we need an ending.
I got it. Car lands, she drives up, she's a teacher.
Ah, teacher?
Hi, guys.
Hey, hi, Miss Sutherland. I did not see that coming.
And then
the announcer says,
the 426 horsepower Camaro.
And then we're done.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest, this segment we call the Final Out, where we give our last remarks before the end of the show. So for me, My final out is going to be a score prediction for men's basketball against Fairfield. I think the score is going to be about 80 to 75, let's say, 80 to 75 in Canisius's favor. They really need this win. Fairfield's only a game behind. If Canisius loses, Fairfield has the advantage. They would hop into 5th place, and Canisius would lose their first round bye. I think Canisius wins at home on Friday and holds on to that 5th spot. John, what's your final out?
My final out is Canisius hockey against Mercyhurst in their final game this year. I'm saying they're gonna. They lost them earlier in the year, 5-1, but with the momentum that they've had, I'm gonna predict that they're gonna win this game 2-1. They're on the longest. We've said it in this segment. They're on the longest undefeated streak in the country. So I think they just use that momentum and pull out a close win, a 2-1 win. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, I just tried to do roll up the rim to win and got please play again.
Aww.
So on that note, thank you viewers for tuning in. Thank you to our production crew for making this show possible. Thank you, John, for joining me here on the desk. If you like the show and want more, we have previous episodes up on YouTube. Until next time, I'm your host, Joe Soisson, and on behalf of Griffin TV, you're always welcome to fly by the nest.